If you're frustrated by the interviewing process, trust me, you are not alone. Hi, I'm a music teacher, and this is my life. The interviewing process for teaching jobs can be frustrating, confusing, draining, and just exhausting. But you are not alone in that feeling. Many teachers, myself included, have gone on a number of different interviews, some that we thought went really well, some that, if we really think about it, could have been better. But regardless, the end result was that the interview panel chose a different applicant for the teaching position. So these are some tips that I've learned both from others as well as through personal experience. So I hope that these tips will help you get through that frustration and will encourage you to continue pursuing that teaching job that you want. But before we get started, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers by ringing that notification bell after subscribing to the channel so that you will never miss another video. Let's start with tip number one. Tip number one, of course, is take a deep breath and feel your emotions, but feel them offline. Now, it's pretty clear that everything on social media or the internet is forever, but I remember a number of years ago, this was pre-pandemic, when I went to a professional development workshop back when I was just a supply teacher, and it was actually a conversation led by two principals. And they were 10 frequently asked questions they were answering, and one of them was about social media. And those two principals were outright blatantly honest, and they said, anyone who applies for a job at our school can expect us to look them up on Google. We're going to look at pictures, any statuses, anything that's published online. You know that when you publish it online, it's public. And so we, as educators, as administrators, should have no problem finding you, and we shouldn't find anything that would have a negative impact on your application. And that's fair, right? The reality is that your digital footprint can follow you. So it's okay to be frustrated if you didn't get a job that you were really hoping to get. Maybe you have a close friend, a parent, a significant other, someone in your life that you can talk to who can understand and maybe have some encouraging words for you. So feel those emotions, but do it offline. Tip number two is to thank the panel and ask them for feedback on how the interview went. Now, if you work in a private school or somewhere other than the school board where I work, things may look a little bit different. But for me, part of the hiring process is that they have to interview the top 3 applicants of any job. And then if you are interviewed, 2 things need to happen. The first thing is you need to be told whether or not you are the successful candidate. And if you're not the successful candidate, you are entitled to receive feedback on how the interview went. So it could be something as simple as replying to their email saying, thank you so much for your time. I'd really appreciate any feedback you can provide so that I can improve on my future interviews. I hope you'll keep me in mind for future opportunities, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Kind regards, and then sign your name. Now, this actually makes you look good because it shows that even if you were not the successful applicant, that you're open to hearing what feedback they have, you're open to learning more and improving upon yourself. And if we are hoping that our students will be lifelong learners, then we as teachers need to do the same. So this is a great way to make yourself look better because now, even though you're not the successful applicant, you're showing them that you're interested in your professional growth, and you'll also be able to use that feedback for future interviews. Tip number 3 is to take notes as you are receiving feedback. So if you're receiving feedback either over a video call or face-to-face, this is the time where you're about to get what you asked for. And if you're someone who has a hard time receiving feedback for a couple of reasons, then this can be a really good thing to do. If you're someone who has a hard time receiving feedback because it feels really personal and it almost feels like an attack, and you tend to come from a very emotional place of sadness and feeling bad about yourself, then writing down what it is that they're saying helps you do 3 things at the same time. You're listening to what they're saying, you are writing it down, and I say write, it could be typing or writing on a piece of paper. You're writing down what they're saying, and you're also reading back what it is that you are writing or typing. And by doing this, you're almost distracting your mind from what it is that you're saying. You're so focused on listening and making sure that you're writing it down that the emotional part of your brain almost takes a back seat. and you're so focused on the listening, the writing, and the reading. It also helps you process the information in a number of different ways. And so it helps you, again, to not come from that emotional place, whether you're someone who struggles to receive feedback because you tend to be sad or take it very personally, or if you're someone who starts to put a wall up and get really defensive. Again, you're putting your emotions or defenses aside for that moment, and you are writing down the things that they're saying in the hopes of being able to reflect on it later. Now, it's also great to write it down because then you can reflect on it right after the call, a few days after the call. If you keep it somewhere safe, then you can open it and look at it before your next interview. And that way, again, it makes you look good because the interview panel sees that you really value the feedback and you care about what they're saying. Otherwise, why would you be writing it down? Tip number 4 is to look for other job interviews and opportunities, of course, in teaching, and keep your written feedback in a safe place so you can bring it up and review it for your future interviews. This might mean having some key words that they said they were looking for, or if they had advice about how to structure your answers, you can be sure to use those tips that they gave you for your future interviews. And the last thing, tip number 5, is to research or learn about the hiring process at your school board, because this can help you take rejection a lot less personally. What I mean by this is if you were picked for an interview, and say your school board is like mine, where only the top 3 candidates get an interview, that means that in their eyes, you were one of the top 3 candidates. And so even if you weren't the successful person based on the interview, that doesn't mean that you don't have great skills, a strong resume, great references. It's just that if you think about it like a rubric, maybe your interview was a level 4 and someone else had a level 4 plus. It doesn't mean that you are a bad teacher, and it just means that they have a certain process they have to go through and they're just following the protocols. Another way that this can help you is because when I've looked at teaching positions, sometimes it'll be a full-time job, and in the job posting, it'll say what teaching subjects they're looking for. And it'll be something very specific, like, special education, gym, math, and English. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, those teachables don't often go together. Usually, the more specific a job posting is, the more likely that someone is already in their minds of who they want to hire. And this is something that I heard from others. So essentially, for example, I have interviewed for jobs where I was only partially qualified, and I ended up finding out who got the position, and that person had all of the teaching qualifications. I only had 2 out of 3 subjects, and the person who got the job had all 3. So it makes sense why they would choose someone else, because then they don't have to divide up the classes between me and someone else. But also, was that job posting really meant for just anyone? Or did they build it because they had someone in mind? It happens. There are some politics at play when certain jobs are created, but that's just another thing that you can keep in mind to not take things so personally. Because like I say, if you understand the hiring process in your school board and only the top 3 applicants get an interview, that means that you are one of the top 3 applicants. So I hope you find these tips helpful. If you do, be sure to like this video. Like I say, subscribe to the channel to help me get that goal of 1,000 subscribers. Ring the notification bell so that you never miss another video and you're up to date when new content comes out. And I will see you right back on this channel very soon. Bye, everyone.